Hello, we are two as one,
I'm Andres.
and I'm Karin. Today's topic, we're going to do a follow up on last week, the video that we did on cheating. And today we're going to talk about, can you repair from an affair? And this episode is probably going to more so be from the angle of the person who stepped outside of the marriage, and because there are obviously two sides. I have, I have worked with a good number of couples where that happened, and some were serial cheaters, some where both people cheated, and everything in between.
This is an episode that requires all your expertise in this difficult topic.
It is a very difficult topic, and there's some very good points, both for what is it that is required in order to repair the relationship, because it can be repaired. You can bring this relationship to the 2.0 version. It does require committing to it, and it requires putting the time in.
I believe it requires honesty. That's a, a big um, foundation of the marriage uh, repairing after a cheating situation. Don't you think?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that's a really, really excellent point, because I think when you're talking about honesty, a lot of times people think about, oh, it's me being honest with you. But a lot of that honesty is me being honest with myself. That requires some introspection, which is another thing that's often missing, not just in these relationships where people they cheat on their spouses, but in general. It can be a lot of lack of introspection, and because it can be painful, there can be a lot of past shame, and just not liking what is in there, and the negative feelings that come up with it. However, I always liken it to, it's like if you decide that you don't want to take the garbage out because the garbage is smelly and slimy and you don't like it, so I don't want to touch it.
Yeah, let's keep it inside.
Yeah. We'll just open up a new garbage bag and pretend the other one isn't there. And we keep doing that for days, for weeks, for months, for years. Guess what's going to happen? You're going to have a whole house full of slimy, stinky food.
Sure.
And it's really just like the same way with ourselves. We got to take the garbage out. And we can only do that when we take a look inside and we get real with ourselves, because then we can start to do repair and we can start to do something about it. If you don't identify the problem, you can't do anything to solve it.
And we should to apply that taking the garbage out in many aspects of our lives.
Hmm.
And friendships, work situations related, and always try to keep the house clean, the inside house clean. That's
uh,
important, yeah,
Definitely.
for mental peace.
Ooh, that is a fact. So one of the things is that you really need to, once it's been established that, oh crap, somebody stepped outside of this marriage, you have to decide, are we both agreeing? Are we both going to recommit to this marriage and do something to make it work?
It's a really, really good point to start with, but I believe, you know, you need a little bit time to the partner affected in the cheating situation, you know, think about what's the next step. Because, if you take a decision from the anger, from the pain, it's not going to be the best decision that in order to uh, try to save the marriage. So it may require a little bit time in order to process, and don't you think?
Yes. And that's the part of, okay, well, even if you aren't in a space to commit right away, there's also the part of not necessarily saying, oh, it's over right away. Give yourself some time. Maybe you need to go away, spend some time at an Airbnb on the beach or whatever. Uh, whatever it is that you need to do, yes, there is definitely some healing time. Um, uh, but the healing time also requires some commitment. And I think a big part of that is also the commitment to self. So let's just say I'm the one who's been cheated on. I need to commit to my own um, healing. And that's where I find many times when I come across couples where there has been an affair, is that I'm also always, because the person who's been cheated on is always like, you need to go deal with you and figure out why the hell you did this. Because you need to know, I need to know, so you know not to do this again. And I know whether I can learn how to trust you again. And when I say, yes, that's very true, however, you also have been through a traumatic event because it does feel like trauma when that happens. And therefore, you need to do your own healing. Otherwise, that's just going to be an ugly dragon that rears its ugly head up at all different strange times. It could even be years later. I've heard a couple is for decades later because the person who was cheated on never did their healing work, and it's just poison within me, if it's me, that is going in there. And anytime you do any little thing, you look at me the wrong way, oh, it's all over. And that's not, it's not okay for me, it's not okay for you, especially if you have done the deed and you did everything you needed to do. You did your inner work, you did the outer work, you've apologized, you've never strayed again, you're 100% transparent, all those kinds of things. That's not fair for me to continue to hold it over your head if you truly have done the work. And that is why, one of the reasons why, not just for him, but for me, to so that I can have peace, so that I can breathe and sit back and enjoy life again.
The I believe the forgiveness is a gift, and it's not for everybody. Not every person being in a situation like that can do that, and that's what is important, to be honest, and both sides of the the people involved in a relationship. Are you um, capable to handle this? Can you forgive? Can you try to? Obviously, as I said, honesty is the most important thing, and as you mentioned, be honest with yourself and identify why you did it. It's part of the healing
Mm-hmm.
process.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, and one, there has to be absolutely, it has to be 100% transparency. I mean, I can go through your phone, I know your codes, and I know everything. um I can ask you this, that when I see your phone, and you just give it to me. And uh all those things. It also, because I've also come across where the couple, they met each other while they were with somebody else, and they cheated on their other partners, and then they got together, and then there was behaviors on both sides, and then the one person um, caught the other, and all hell broke loose, and there was all shut down, tighten up. You're not allowed to even talk. Don't even have your manager, who's a female's phone number. You're not allowed to talk to her. And in the meantime, I can go out and I can go party and get drunk and flirt with men and this, that, and the other.
Hmm.
And so no, that doesn't work either, because obviously there's something terribly wrong in this relationship. It started off on the wrong foot altogether. So when you have this kind of retaliatory mindset, which is understandable because you've been hurt, and it can be very much a knee jerk reaction to want to, oh, you hurt me, I want to hurt you back like you hurt me. um, but again, obviously, that's one of those where one of the other points is this a marriage that we want to save? If that's where you are and you're thinking like that and you're not willing to take a breath, sit back, and be honest with yourself, and let's take a look at what's really going on, then maybe not.
Yeah, that's very dangerous being in that situation because you did it. Now I have a free card to do it, and now we are even, and let's see where this.
Oh, the tit for tat
Yeah,
relationships, oh my goodness, those, there's a level of immaturity in those relationships, because I've seen it not just with cheating but with other things. And oh wow, they are exhausting because you're always on guard in those relationships.
yeah,
But another point is that once that it has been disclosed that, uh, let's say I cheated, then the first thing that needs to happen is I have to end it. No little side notes, and no little, oh, last little rendezvous, and oh, just little messages and emails here and there. It's got to be over, over. Delete, block on every single avenue. I know these days there's social media and emails and all different kinds of ways where people can go in and they can connect with people and pop up their little heads up and, oh, hello, here I am. It's like, oh, dang it, I thought I blocked you on this other thing, now you're popping up over there on that on that media. So if you missed one
mm,
and the person pops up somewhere else, you have to have the discipline to go ahead and uh, zap that right away.
yeah. That's a radical decision that you need to make it in order to, if you want to save the marriage. That's something that you need to cut from the root.
100%. Because you've already broken the trust. How do you expect to build that trust back if you continue to break that trust? That's impossible. And then you're going to reap the consequences of that by your partner being all over your case because they don't trust you, and then you keep showing them that you're not to be trusted, and then they're going to be on your case again, and you're going to be mad because they're on your case because you can't be trusted. And do you see how that how that
Yeah,
works? It, yeah. So it's when you were talking about radical, how about radical accountability?
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, take a responsibility. You know what you did, and it's not gonna be easy
No,
unless until you do the workout that you need to do it, and in order to repair the damage that is already there, it's not gonna be easy for
no,
sure.
yeah. And so accepting the responsibility and apologize, not just, I'm sorry, it's in the past, we're over it, I don't ever want to talk about it again. Because the person that's been hurt, they're going to want to ask questions about it. When did it start? Who was it? How many times did you have sex? Where else did you talk? How many times? Where were you? Where was it that you had sex? All these things. And they're going to want to ask you probably multiple times. And you're not going to want to answer because it's very uncomfortable. And it makes you feel, brings up all the bad feelings, all the shame, all the guilt, all those emotions. However, again, if you want to repair and you want to rebuild that trust, you're going to have to answer all those very uncomfortable questions and probably answer them multiple times until this person, until your spouse decides that, like, okay, I've had enough. Because the number one thing that your spouse really wants to know, they're asking because they're trying to figure out how can I trust again? And how can I, what was this something that I did? That's what's going on in their head. And therefore, by analyzing what happened, what was going on in your head, what was the environment, what made you make that decision, then I can start to figure out if I did anything, or if I can begin to start to trust you again. And that's what that's all about.
I believe that's the main thing, to identify um, why, when you decided, and what makes you take the decision, and start to work in that situation.
Yeah, what are some of the examples of why people?
Well, that article that I was reading, it says it happens. What is it? Are you cheating in order to end the relationship? That could be kind of childish way to finish, to end a marriage. Have you ever found any situation like that?
Yeah, yeah. There have been some that are like that because for some reason they don't, they're either afraid of bringing it up and wanting to end it, or they were just immature themselves. A lot of different kinds of uh, inability to be honest with themselves or be honest with their partner, not wanting to hurt the partner, and then it gets very convoluted. This is the thing with our brains and our emotions. It gets very convoluted, and many times we're thinking and doing things that don't make any sense whatsoever. um, which is why we often need somebody from outside who's not in you and involved with you emotionally, like a therapist, to help you unravel these things so that you can begin to make better decisions for yourself and in your life. But yes, there are definitely people who have had an affair because they wanted to end the marriage or the relationship and didn't know how to do it.
Well, it says the people is seeking for validation or fulfillment from outside of the relationship.
Hmm. And a lot of that has to do with in feeling insecure and uh, wanting, they haven't built up their own a strong inner sense of worth for themselves, and therefore maybe having it, your your validation is not enough for me, and I'm looking at it from somewhere else, and as much as possible. And so yes, there is definitely that.
Yeah, interesting. I never thought about it.
Mm.
The third one is interesting, and I believe it's cover a bigger spectrum of the situation. It's is an impulsive situation, or followed by immediate gratification.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And there's several things. One, we do live in a society where there's a lot of immediate gratification, right? We're not really taught a whole lot how to postpone gratification. That we need to work towards something and then we earn it, uh, and so that's not helping. But there's, and you can also see how that's where often also there's maybe alcohol or drugs involved. Obviously, when those things are involved, we lose connection with our prefrontal cortex, where we make the more intelligent decisions in our life. And that is often also a place where these things happen, the impulsivity. And again, also, if you think about it, that could also be a sign that you're not fully, if you're that impulsive, you're not really fully committed to the marriage.
definitely.
what do you find with regards to being fully 100% in a marriage compared to relationships where maybe you weren't? Because I think we've all had those. It's like, yeah, I have one foot in and one foot out. Not sure. As opposed to, oh, I'm all in this relationship.
Yeah, that's interesting. The commitment that you put yourself and towards to the relationship to work on it and be 100% on it.
Hmm.
And if you before the marriage you realize it's something that you are not sure, be honest.
Hmm.
And if it's not gonna happen,
Yeah.
just
Yeah. And like I was saying last week, that if if the relationship is in a place where, okay, I've put in to this relationship and it just doesn't seem to be going anywhere, or it looked really nice in the beginning and it's totally falling apart, and I don't really want to put in, I don't think my partner is putting in, either one or the other or all of the above, then by all means end it. I think the more humane thing to do is to end the relationship, because then you can just go off and do whatever you want, without damaging your spouse by going out and betraying them, because it is a huge betrayal.
it is.
Yeah.
Oh,
All right.
yeah. I think this is really important. Forgive yourself. Once all the situations happen and you happen to be honest with your partner and all the pain and everything, at some point, once you want to start to work on the issue and be open with your partner, at some point you need to forgive yourself in order to move on in
Mm.
the relationship.
Yep. And the forgiveness is a process which comes when you, like you said, do the healing work, go on that journey. And it is important also for the person who's been betrayed, which also is not going to happen right away. It's going to be a process. Uh, but it's important also for the person that's been betrayed to not only forgive their partner, but also forgive themselves. Because as strange as it may sound, is we tend to also blame ourselves, and this is not at all to blame the person who's been betrayed, but that many times it could be that maybe you really weren't paying attention in your relationship. It's not an excuse for the other to go out and and cheat. It can be a symptom of what has not been going on in the relationship. Again, that's where it's important for, when you are in a relationship, to be honest with yourself and with your partner of, look, I don't think we are in a good place right now. I feel like we're getting disconnected. Let's figure out how can we get reconnected, and that way avoid the whole cheating thing. But this is something that can be used if you do decide to stick through and heal from this affair. What uh, this can do is to help you learn how to identify when things are going a little bit astray and catch it early on, so that we can work through it as quickly as possible.
Yeah, that takes us to the next point, that is be open and patient.
Mm.
So you need to be smart enough to to give your partner some time to process, as we mentioned before, in order to be open and start to talk about what happened, the why, identify the things that make you took that way.
Yeah, and I think really. paying attention and doing loving things, you know. Um, Also giving space because the other person's going to need space. They might want to go and spend time with people that they love and trust and who loves them, that they feel emotionally safe with. And because the other thing that you have to start to work on building, whether for the first time or rebuilding, is that you become the emotionally safe place for your spouse. And again, how does that happen? That happens by allowing the other person to have the emotions that they have. I'm going to be pissed at you, right? And you're going to have to allow me to be pissed at you. That doesn't mean that I get to verbally abuse you or physically abuse you. However, it means that, yeah, I screwed up. So obviously you're going to be mad at me. Um, so allowing your spouse to express the anger and the betrayal and the disappointment and the hurt and the pain, and nurturing them. How would you do with your child when your child falls and hurts their knee, or their friend is mean to them, or whatever? You want to comfort them, right? So you're going to need to do that, and they may push you away initially because, ugh, yeah, you with
Yeah,
this other
I don't think
person.
it's a good idea.
But there are other ways of comforting. Maybe by cooking the meals and preparing the meals, or doing the chores around the house, and eh, picking up the kids and doing things, taking things off of the other partner, so that that partner has maybe some more time and space to go through their emotions. Um, and that way you're also stepping up your game in the marriage, in the business of running life in a marriage, right? Maybe you weren't good at that before, and then you're stepping up a little bit more in the home and in doing that. And that's going to be part of also some loving and caring actions that you're taking uh, while they're able to begin to their recovery.
Definitely.
Hmm. Yeah. So yeah. Um. So one thing is also, again, if are you truly in this relationship? The only way that it can be repaired is if you decide that, all right, I really think that this is a relationship that's um, valuable and important for me to be able um, to preserve and get to another level. And if I am lucky enough, fortunate enough that my spouse is willing to take me back and give me another chance, give me a chance to step up and be and grow into a better person that you deserve me to be. And really, honestly, I deserve me to be, because it's if I can step up in the world in a way that I can feel proud of. If you think of it from that aspect as well, do you feel proud of yourself when you are going around, pardon me, hurting the people that you supposedly love?
Definitely.
Yeah,
Difficult.
yeah.
And it's something that I back in the day, my former uh, parents-in-law, they have a very interesting relationship, and I always been amazed when after they've been married more than 30 years, and the wife always bring the situations to the husband and really makes him feel like trash,
Hmm.
bringing all the time the things that happened several years ago. And
Decades.
he never admitted that happened. He says it's just is in her head, so it never happens. But after 20 years, it was the constant every single time they bring in the stuff. That's it's not love there,
Mm.
and it's not forgiveness. So what's the point?
It's a lifelong hell here on Earth.
Definitely was terrible.
Yeah,
Was not
yeah.
nice.
And what our intention is with Two is One, this channel is really to help you create heaven on earth. It's entirely possible. And that example that you were talking about with your former in laws is exactly what we're talking about. The example where, well, this is not working. And yet they're still both choosing to be there and to do
Still,
this. Still to this day. Like now, by now, it's like 40, 50
yeah,
years ago, huh?
that guy was my hero. Oh my god.
He's a martyr.
Yeah, he been kicked out from the house several
Oh
times.
boy. Oh
Yeah,
boy.
yeah,
Oh, he's a glutton for punishment, huh?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So, and of course, it takes two people to decide that, okay, well, we are going to really work on this and make this a safe space for both people, because in that example, he was not safe either emotionally in that relationship. So, um, yeah. So I think one of the thing is, um, and if you were really to save this relationship, you're gonna have to again reflect on how you really truly feel in that example there. If he were to really truly look at how he feels, is this something that he's willing to continue with, right?
Yeah, once you had the commitment to keep fighting for love, I think that this is about love, right? This is, you want to be in this relationship because you love your partner, and then you need to put the fight on it. So now let's talk about the ways to save a relationship, how to save the relationship after cheating, after being in that painful situation. As you mentioned, reflect how are you feeling about
Yeah, and obviously stop cheating.
it. Yeah,
Don't put yourself in precarious
it's not
situations.
gonna work if you don't stop cheating.
Yes, maybe you need to be off of social media. Maybe you need to delete your social media and go without. Uh, a lot of things that you may need to change. Maybe you need to stop hanging out with certain people. Um, Maybe you need to
Yeah,
stop going certain places. Maybe you need to not go to bars after work if that's what you're doing. Of course, the challenge is if it's a coworker.
yeah.
That can be a challenge because if you need to stay there, maybe you need to even see if you can get a transfer. If you work in a place where you can go somewhere else and they have other places to work, or find another job. Um,
Well, it doesn't work all the time, so
no.
that's what I did. So, as a former police officer, as a part of my commitment to change what I did, so I quit my career as a police officer, and it didn't work. So I lost my marriage, I lost my career, and that's what I decided to come to the United States. Here I am.
Happiness is being married to a Dane.
Mm.
Well, what do you know? Life is
Yeah, I
funny,
mean,
isn't
well,
it?
it is,
Yes,
it is, it is.
yes, yes. Yeah. Well,
Um, Accept responsibility. That's something that we had the tendency to deflect and always try to put that responsibility in somebody else, and that makes you feel less guilty. And it's not it's not good in
hmm,
any situation in life. I've been working with my son and myself as well, all the time that I'm having those thoughts coming through my head. And we like to practice soccer with my son, and sometimes he don't perform as he want, and he always try to blame the maybe it's the grass, maybe the shoes, maybe the socks, and maybe it's you. I mean, But we have the tendency to do that, to deflect the responsibility in somebody else.
Yeah, yeah, it's a human
It's a human
human
thing, right?
fallacy.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, and yeah, the more that we can assume that responsible. Now, some people, they're hyper responsible. They take responsible for everything, including other people's actions, and so it's always a continuum that we want to stay somewhere in the middle. Is pretty good. Um, yeah, and I think we talked about that. Making a decision that, but making that decision to stay also means yes, the person who did the betrayal, they have to identify why was it that they did it, figure out where does that really come from. Maybe it's some childhood stuff that you need to work through, and so that you can get to feel more secure in yourself, and that way you're not going to be seeking validation from other people. That kind of work is going to be pertinent. And the person who's been cheated on needs to do their healing from the trauma that they experienced, because I am going to equate that being cheated on with trauma, because that's what it feels like. Anybody who's been through it will tell you so. um, and and then it's time to devote yourself to the marriage. What are the things that you need to do in order to devote yourself to the marriage? It means taking time to really connect, really look it in your eyes and find out how are you really, and what are you thinking, what are you feeling, what are your dreams, what are some things you enjoy, what is your love language, how do I spend time with you, what makes you feel fulfilled, what makes me feel fulfilled, and to really truly um, get engaged in that process of nurturing and developing a satisfying, fulfilling relationship.
And keep your promises. If you are in a commitment to save your marriage, and then you uh, said that you're gonna do something, you have to do it. You have to work on it.
Oh, that is one of the ways that you're going to earn your trust back, is by you say you're going to do something, you do the thing. You say you're going to be there, you were there. If the plan changes for whatever reason, even last minute, you let your spouse know, look, this is what came up. I'm going to be over here. This happened. Da, 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 da. And then there you are. You again did exactly what you said. Things happen. As long as you communicate that things happened, what happened, and why, and this is what's going to happen, and then you're going to, over time, it could be months, it could be a year, it could be a couple of years. The longer that you stick to that, the more you're going to rebuild that. Because now I am seeing there is action behind the words. That's across the board with anything. Words are very easy to say. If you are not putting action behind those words, I tell everybody, doesn't matter what comes out of somebody's mouth, look at their actions, because
Correct.
the actions is what's telling you what is really important to the person.
Very good point.
Yeah.
Love
Um,
it.
Also, finances need to be open, because many times that's how somebody discovered that there was an infidelity. It's like, where, what was this $500 here that was not something that ended up coming this way? Or, wow, I know you said that you were on a business lunch, or that you were somewhere, but normally for a business lunch you just pay for yourself. But this looks like you paid for more than one person. What was going on there? Yeah, a lot of things like that. So
Right.
yes,
But we are going through a difficult financial time, so you
yes,
better keep your numbers. You
for
know.
sure, for sure. We're gonna have an audit going on here.
Exactly.
Yes, because also, what are your financial goals in your marriage, right? And so that's really important. Now, also, one of the things that you can do, well, one thing is that it's probably going to be a good idea to find a really good marriage therapist, and also probably going to be really important and helpful for the marriage therapy to do your own separate therapy. That's how I often work with people, with couples, by also doing their separate work, especially when it comes to an infidelity, so that you can work out all those triggers and each have time to reflect. And that's where also that part of deciding, okay, am I going to recommit to this relationship? That can happen through the individual counseling, and then the couples counseling can then come in, and that's where you can either do the repair, or if it becomes the decision that it's time to separate, then how can you separate in an amicable way, especially if they're children, because that's a whole other layer right there. It is not okay for me to continue to take my anger out on you when we have children. First of all, it's poisoning myself, but you're also poisoning those children. So that is something that people goes way out of their mind when they're just focused on their anger. It's like tunnel vision. I don't see or hear or feel anything other than my immense hatred for you, and I'm going to spew that every which way. It is a horrible, horrible thing to do to yourself and your children, and of course to the other person. But he's an adult, and still it's not okay. But think about what you're doing to these innocent little children that you brought into the world. It's really important.
Yeah, and don't talk about the situation is
Mm,
not a solution as well.
yeah. Oh,
That's
okay.
really important. That's what happened in my situation. At some point, we decided to try it again, and we didn't find professional help. We just decided to move on and don't talk about it. And the end was not nice because the pain was there.
Mm, yeah. You can pretend it's not there,
Hmm.
but sweep it under the rug. But when you do that, there was a hump on that rug that
Yeah,
you keep tripping over. And then if I pretend that it didn't happen, and then you do something like, oh, now I'm not just going to be mad about that little thing, because if it that hadn't happened, it's like, yeah, that's really annoying. Joyce, why do you do that? But now, because there's that thing, that big thing that we swept under the rug and pretended isn't happening, now that's what's really coming up because of this little thing right here. And now I'm going to be this mad, and all hell's going to break loose. And that's what happened also probably with your in-laws. Uh,
probably.
for decades it's going on right there.
Yeah,
Yes. Now, if you would like, I did write a book some years ago, which is a workbook that it helps you go through. And this can be one step that you take in order to start your own process, whether no matter which side of this you are, because it really does take a look at uh, their exercises. For example, one is uh, do go throughout your entire life and write a timeline and figure out what are the high points and the low points in your life. And it can, even though of course you know how your life is, but seeing it visually like that can give you a new perspective. And so at the end of every chapter there is exercises based on what the chapter was about. It's available on in Barnes Noble and Amazon.
Amazon.
That one right there, Achieving Peace, Purpose, and Prosperity.
I love it. It's a good
Yes.
one.
Also, another thing that's coming up is I'm working on a 6 week mindset challenge. Mindset is everything. And that's going to be in an app that is coming out. So just keep your eye out on that. I will keep you posted. Other than that, go out there, shine your beautiful inner lights.
Thank you very much.
Let us know what your thoughts and experiences are. Any tips, tools, things that you did, what has been helpful, and if there's somebody that you know also who could benefit from this episode, please share. That's how we get it
Like,
out there. Share, like, and subscribe.
yes.
Till next time.